I'm Christy Denby. I'm the Climate Change and Environment Policy Analyst with the BC Assembly of First Nations. And I'd like to acknowledge that I'm joining today virtually from the unceded and traditional territory of the Williams Lake First Nation. I also want to mention the deep respect I have for all of the First Nation stewards across the province, and want to acknowledge the territory you're joining from today as well. I would like to pass it off right away to Carla from Squamish Nation to start us off in a good way, and I'll pass it over to Carla. Thank you.
Hosiam hoichacha quailori clock shamansna nuquams hat nutsameka usi jesame. Sorry, just sharing with you who I am and where I come from. I'm Squamish and Quagilt. My father is Hopemish, my mother is Quagilt. And just really grateful to be in my home community, Humulchiston, Capilano Reserve, Squamish territory, and just welcome each and every one of you to this virtual meeting in your own lands, wherever you may be. And just thinking of, as I'm going to share this song, it's okay. I just honor and acknowledge all of our loved ones, those that attended residential school, those that didn't survive. Just honor each and every one of them as they're disbelievers and discreditors of our loved ones, and keep them in your minds and in your hearts as we gather this morning. And I will share a song in honor of them. I had my orange shawl, but my headband didn't match. And so I was really thinking of them. It's just been so heartbreaking, as both of my parents are residential school survivors. And to think that people do not believe our loved ones and the truths that have been told, the ground penetrating radar work that is being done. Last week, I just did that training myself, preparing for my own community. Very, very hard work that needs to be done still. We are not finished. And so just ask each and every one of you to lift up thoughts and prayers to each of the respective communities that are still dealing with these losses. I'll start with Tum Tum Slolam, not to quick quank. A long time ago, this song came to Sasoliat, and it was my grandmother's, one of her favorite songs. And this is one of the old people's songs from about the late 1800s. And so I'll share this song. Thank you for being here today and talking about this important topic. And we know that we're all being affected by climate change. I think of 30 years ago, I started going into my husband's territory. He's Wet'suwet'en, and there used to be 4 or 5 feet of snow, and it'd be about 40 below. And now we're lucky if there's 2 feet of snow and 10, maybe 20 below. But you know, I attribute that to climate change and just looking at how our world is drastically changing, but how we can work together. And I understand FNESS is here too. So hold my hands up to each and every one of you for doing this good work on all of our behalf in the province of BC.
Thank you so much, Carla. Thanks for that beautiful song, and just extending a lot of gratitude from our teams and from FNESS and BCAFN. We really appreciate you joining today and starting this climate data workshop in a good way. So before I pass it over to my colleague Patricia Rojas, I have a few housekeeping items to get through. Also, I just wanted to let everybody know that we are recording the webinar, so we will post it on the BCAFN events page, so you will have access to the recording after the session. So if you miss anything, you can always go back to the recording. I'm just would like to invite everybody to, put questions in the chat, use the raise hand function, or just unmute yourself. We want to make this workshop as interactive as possible. The last one was definitely interactive, and we appreciated all the participation from everyone that attended. So yeah, So please feel free to ask questions at any time during the presentation. I also really want to acknowledge and thank everyone from the organizing team for Guyu, the presenter today and at the last workshop, and just for helping us organize this and working together and partnering. And also that would be Brendan too for your support. And Brendan's going to be there on tech helping if there's any issues with the Lightship accounts. I also want to acknowledge Joanna. Thank you so much for setting up all the Zoom and doing, all these wonderful emails to remind people. We appreciate it. My colleague Patricia for, having the vision with FNESS to create this series of workshops and webinars on climate data, and to our communications team, Annette and Dara. And I understand we do have Michelle on the line from FNESS as well joining. So thank you to everyone for organizing this and putting the effort. So yeah, if we'd like you to, if you can, rename yourself. There's 3 little dots in the corner of your screen, and you can push that and rename yourself with your name and organization if you wish. Please put your name and introduce yourself in the chat if you'd like. We'd love to, hear who's joining and get to know you a bit better. If you'd like to have your camera on or off, totally your choice. Just keep yourself on mute if you could while you're not speaking, that would be great. So if there's any Zoom issues, which always seem to pop up, just put a message in the chat, or you can text or call Joanna. Her number is there on the screen. Any Lightship issues, I know Brendan's on call. He's going to solve any of the challenges. You should have received email from Guyu with invitation to create a Lightship account. So if you haven't received that, maybe just pop a message in the chat and Brendan can help you out. It might have ended in your Zoom or in your email kind of junk mail as well. So maybe just have a look. We do have closed captions today, and like I said, the workshop is being recorded. So without further ado, I'll pass it off to my colleague Patricia Rojas to make some opening remarks.
Thank you, Christy, and good morning, everyone. For those who don't know me, I am Patricia Rojas, the Regional Climate Change Coordinator for BCAFN. And thank you, Carla, for opening us in a perfect way. It's, starting this with a good spirit is very, very important. And as Carla said, climate change is a very challenging topic right now. So for this morning, I will go through why we are doing this workshop, why we are hosting this workshop with FNESS. That responds to our mandate that Chiefs in Assembly gave to BCAFN a couple of years ago now, to support First Nations communities to prepare and adapt to climate change. So this is a series of webinars that we are hosting in partnership with FNESS on climate data, how to use climate data. We hosted other webinars also on climate data, and that information is in our website as well. If anybody is interested, just go to the website and you will find those past climate data webinars. And of course, in this series of webinars, we also we hosted a webinar in April that was 1.5 degrees global climate targets, what global targets mean for First Nations. And we also hosted last month the first workshop on the Lightship. And today we are going to talk about, this is a second workshop. Participants will discover more in depth the use of the Lightship platform, such as benefits and limitations. FNESS will demonstrate the use of climate change templates, including adaptation tools, environmental impact tracking and reporting tools. Any attendees who express interest will receive a free Lightship account, and they can use the tools for their own communities. So you can use those for your own communities. Relevant links will also be shared after the workshop. And if required, FNESS is also offering in-person training sessions for First Nations. So if you are interested in learning more about the Lightship, just reach out to FNESS. And outcomes for this session is attendees will understand how to use the Lightship climate workspace and explore adaptation options for identify climate risk. They will also, or you will also understand how to use reporting tools to track your environmental impacts and generate your own reports. The agenda for today, Christy just did a welcome. So after that, we will start the introduction of the Lightship. You will do that part, and tracking and reporting tools that also you will do that. And then we have a 5 minutes break to stretch ourselves. And then we have the Lightship demonstration and climate data exercise that FNESS prepared for us. And after that, we will have a time for questions and answers and any discussions that we want to have today. And then we will finalize this workshop. So please, as Christy said, please feel free to share where are you coming from today. And if you have any questions, just text us or put that in the chat as well. So thank you very much.
Thanks so much, Patricia. I'll just let Guyu share his screen here, and I'll just briefly introduce our presenter today. It's Guyu Lin. He's the data support specialist at the First Nations Emergency Services Society of BC. And sorry if I use the acronym FNESS. I should have explained what the acronym was before I used it before. Anyways, so Guyu works on the decision support team. He integrates climate data for First Nations communities and develops tools to support communities in decision making. And without further ado, I will pass it off to Guyu to begin the presentation. Thanks, Guyu.
I just need to unmute myself. Good morning, everyone. Thank you for participating in this second workshop. I'm Guyu Lin. I'm a data support specialist at FNESS. We are a non-profit organization. We support BC First Nations to build safe and healthy communities. I work and live on the unceded and traditional territory of Musqueam First Nation. Also want to mention that tomorrow is the Indigenous Peoples Day. So yeah, it's a nice day to have this workshop. In the next hour, I will briefly introduce the Lightship platform, and we're going to talk about our climate adaptation assessment tool, the energy use tracking tool, and the traditional ecological knowledge documentation form. We're going to talk about how to use these forms to input data and export data. We're gonna do a hands-on exercise. So before we start, just want everyone to be aware that the data you input today is visible to all participants, and this workshop is gonna be recorded. So please don't input anything sensitive or private. Just be aware of that. And the tools we are using today is for demonstration only. And we're gonna create individual groups and workspaces for communities that is interested in working with us on Lightship platform. So in the future, if you input your community data, it's going to be safe and private. and they will be visible to your community only. And at FNESS, we follow the OCAP principles to manage First Nation data, that is ownership, control, access, and possession. So First Nation will have total control over their own data, and we just provide supports. Okay, now let's have a look at the Lightship. Lightship is a platform for data integration and management. At FNESS, we use Lightship in responding to emergencies. We have field teams. We have people working in the office. We are all collecting data from different sources, and we put the data into Lightship, and so all team members will have access, and managers can use Lightship to assign tasks to team members. And we believe that this platform can be used by nations and for better administration and management. The platform is provided by a company called Lightship Works. It is based in Kamloops, and FNESS have funding to support all First Nations in BC to use this platform free of charge. So hopefully everyone got an account ready. If not, please send your name and email address in the chat. Brandon will be able to send you an invitation to create an account. Okay, now let's go to the platform and take a look. So this should be what it looks like. It's a brand new account. Should be looking at this. There will be the main page, my work, resources. Here you can see people and teams, who else is on the platform that you can be worked with. And here you will see notifications, what changes have been made to your account, and you can get Lightship support by clicking on the question mark here. Here you can change your profile. You can upload a profile photo, or you can change your name here if they are inputted incorrectly. So yeah, it says there's nothing to do. Let's find something to do. Click on view all workspaces. Everyone should have access to the climate data workshop workspace. And click on that. We're going to the workspace. A workspace is like an office. We put everything we need in the office, and we bring people and bring teams. So today, our group is the Climate Data Workshop participants. That's the name of the team, and people in this workspace can be found here. In the workspace, there's the dashboard. You can see general information here. There's the map. It takes a while to load. So this is the same map we looked at last time. So you'll find everything you need here. Yeah, those are the data we talked about last time. I've also included some missing data. And yeah, now you can download data with your account. Beside the map, there will be tasks. So managers can use this to assign tasks to team members. There are forms. Today, we're gonna be looking at the 3 forms. You can use this to input data. Once we have data on Lightship, we can use feature search. That's a tool you can use to filter data and export data. So let's take a closer look at the forms. First up, we have the climate change adaptation needs form. Click on that. Click on new entry. That'll be lead to the form. Now we can use this form to do a quick assessment of what is mostly urgently needed to make a climate change adaptation plan. So some general information here, select a date, name of the community, example 1, name of participants, 古语, and name of FNESS climate change coordinator. We are gonna hiring coordinators soon. So you might be doing this on your own, or you can do it together with us. So if you're doing with someone from FNESS, you can just type in their names here. Okay, have you noticed any changes in weather patterns or the local environment, like animal, water? You can input your observations here. And if you think your community have members that are vulnerable, or resources and systems that are vulnerable, or infrastructures that are vulnerable, you can input them all here, and you can provide as many details as possible. And some other questions: have you already take steps to adapt to climate change? Maybe yes, maybe no. And yes, then you can provide some details here. No, and do you want one? Or do you have plans to make one? So if you are gonna make a plan, what are the obstacles? What are the difficulties, and what are resources you need to make one? You might need funding, you might need capacity. Once those needs are identified, we can maybe provide some support. And yeah, what are some areas that need to be better adapt to climate change? And what are the most urgent area? And have you been incorporating traditional knowledge in the community climate adaptation plan? And lastly, you can input any comments or notes here, like what is the follow-up meeting date or time? Or you can just say, we made a new assessment and please don't use the old one. Okay, let's just quickly type in something here. Maybe funding is mostly needed, and additional resources need more employees. The most urgent might be food security. Yes. Describe the traditional knowledge, like how snow have changed. Then we click on save. There will be it will be saved here, and then we can go to feature searches and export this input. So we can use the filter here. For example, you can filter like who made the assessment. It's just me here, so only GUI shows up. Then you hit apply. It filtered through name of participants. Then you can click here, then download an Excel file to export the inputted data. Apart from the adaptation need assessment, there is the energy use tracking form. So, okay, energy use tracking. New entry, same thing, date. Okay, when you track your energy use, you can describe the energy user. It might be a car or a band office, or it could be a community center, anything that uses energy. So we're gonna say vehicle with a plate number ABC 123. Okay, then every time you fill your tank, you can make an input here. So today I fill my car, then I select the date of today. Then I used what type of energy I used today. I used gasoline for my car. Then so the unit is in liter, and I use 30 liters today. So 30 here. Do you want to upload a receipt or screenshot of the entry? So just you can maybe take a photo of the receipt. It's saying how much you've spent today and how many gas you filled today. Then upload your photo here, or it could be a screenshot, anything. And then other comments for the last question. Click on save. And you might want to make another entry for your band office or something, same thing. And let's not save this one. Then the last form we are sharing is traditional ecological knowledge documentation. So some people knows the land very well, but their knowledge is not being shared or passed on to next generation. We might want to use this form to document this knowledge. So type in the knowledge, give your name, maybe some elder, the coordinator. So you can write down everything he or she might know here. And then And how many people in your community know this? Might be only a few, might be a lot of people. Let's say a few here. And how important you think the knowledge is? It's highly important and not being passed to the next generation. And here you can upload all supporting files that can be some old documents or old photos, or it could be a sketch, like how the glacier looks like in the 60s and how it looks like in the 80s, then how it looks like now. And you can decide to share this information with FNESS. Can we use it for other purposes, or you decide not to? Let us use the knowledge you just gave us. It's totally fine and understandable. It might be sensitive or just for your community. And can make any other comments here. And click on save. Yeah, so here in the feature search, you can see the input we just made. For the TEK, and you can download the data here. Then we've talked about notifications, support and profile. And you use form to input data and use feature search to filter data and download the Excels. Yeah. I mentioned that FNESS are hiring climate change coordinators. We are building our capacity, and we might want to do more climate change or environmental projects with First Nations in BC. The coordinators might do community visits. They would bring a laptop and sit down with you, then take a closer look at the forms, and make very detailed inputs with you, or you can set up one-on-one meeting with them and have a chat if you have any questions regarding the form and tool. Also, we can make a customized tool. For example, when using the energy use tracking tool, you might just want to track maybe three vehicles that belongs to the band. We can just make a pick list here, so you don't need to type in every time. It would be just vehicle 1, vehicle 2, vehicle 3, or you can add some other energy that you use but is not showed on this list. For example, you might use heating oils. You can add more options here. It's totally fine. Okay, now hope everyone will have access to Lightship, and we can try inputting your own data. Please note that everyone will be seeing your input here, just like you can see mine. Okay. Now, if you still don't have an account, it's a good time to maybe send an email or direct message to me or Brandon. And we can take a 5 minutes break, and we can try the tools on our own after the break. Then we are gonna answer some questions and discuss some of the tools.
Thanks, Kuyu. Yeah, I'll put your email in the chat with Brendan's. So if anyone has any issues with their accounts, just if you need to stretch, fill up your coffee, and we'll just take a quick 5-minute break. Or if you want to stay on the line and ask any questions, by all means, do that as well. Kuyu there and Brendan, there's a couple people in the chat that need an account.
Yeah, it's just what to respond to her in chat. I did create a new, did send Geraldine a new link here a second ago.
And then Daniel, I see a bunch of questions. So maybe we'll just wait till everybody gets back from the break, and then or we could leave those for the Q&A unless there was a couple questions. Danielle was just wondering, remember the map last workshop wasn't working? Would you be able to show that maybe when everyone comes back, Kuyu? There's a few questions in the Q&A. If you don't mind just popping in there and maybe you can respond to Danielle's, and I would wait to show everybody kind of the demo on the map that wasn't working until everyone gets back from their break. of quite a few comments and questions popping up, which is great. So we'll just let everyone come back. Hopefully you filled up your coffee cup and you're ready to do a live demonstration, and we'll just get to a few of the comments in the Q&A and in the chat. Thanks for adding those. So we have a few from Daniel. Thanks so much, Daniel. He was in the last workshop. And then, so Guyu, Daniel, once we get to the demo, because there's a few other comments in the chat, Daniel was wondering about the map, if you could kind of show quickly what wasn't working last session. And then Daniel's also wondering about does it feature searches? Can you create reports? And then the questions that I think Daniel's referring to, the forms. Is it asked one time or is it once a year? What's the frequency in terms of the forms? Daniel, hop in if I'm not representing your questions correctly or speaking to them correctly. So the data being collected is for FNESS to act on or to respond to. Do you want to speak to that, Guyu?
Yeah, the data collected can be acted on by the community on their own. FNESS can also act on that too. So I'm seeing questions from the chat. Purpose of the form is to better understand the needs of climate adaptation. So this form can be give out to community members or council members. Yeah, just to get perspective from different people. Yeah, hope this could help us better understand the needs. So once FNESS know what your community need, and we see a funding opportunity that might be relevant, we can act on that and provide some supports on fund application and grant writing. And can you create reports? Yes, we can create a report template. So once you currently it only downloads an Excel, and what you input is what you're gonna get. We can create a template so you would be able to download the PDF report, but the report need to be customized, so it's not gonna be there for everyone. Once we sit down and talk to a specific community, we can make templates just for that community. And frequency, well, how frequent you want this to be updated is totally depend on community needs. So you want to do this once a year, it's fine. What
would be best practices?
Best practices, well, it's a plan made 5 years ago probably need to be updated. And if things have been rapidly change on your community, you might want to do that maybe 6 months. Do I miss any other questions from you, Daniel?
Yeah, there was just a few comments on kind of the purpose and how it can be used, the forms, and to understand more of kind of what's the purpose of filling out the form, and what are kind of some of the actions and funding sources to after there's a submission, and then is there funding from someone to allocate based on their submission? There was a couple of questions around kind of outcomes, what can be expected from the outcomes of the platform.
Yeah, the outcome is to help land managers to better understand needs, also have FNESS know what is mostly needed by nations, so we can work together and provide some services and fill the gap.
I can jump in too quickly if it helps.
Yeah.
You.
Sure.
In a sense, like with the forms, the key goal is to put together a process where communities can help to identify their local impacts to climate change. And by basically understanding the impacts and being able to measure the impacts, the idea is that then once we have climate change coordinators hired here at FNESS, they'll be able to work with communities individually to find funding sources. There are some available already. One of my staff, Casey LaRochelle, puts out a funding list every month or so through our community of practice that carries a bunch of these funding sources currently. But once we get the staff on board, they'll be able to work more directly one-on-one to help you find the funding to then reduce those things that you identified previously. So say if your community had a fleet of diesel trucks and you wanted to have some more hybrid vehicles in the mix, by starting to use these forms and pointing out how much emissions come from your diesel trucks, we can come up with strategies to then reduce that, work collectively together to find the funding to start getting you hybrid vehicles and other things like that in your community. But it really starts with identifying the needs and starting to measure some of the impacts, and then we can work together, go down that pathway.
Yeah, sorry, just realized we are asking about the energy use tracking. I was only focusing on the assessment need. Yeah, to track the energy use, we can know how much gasoline or how much diesel, how much electricity you've used, maybe for the last year, and then we know we can know that how much carbon are emitted from 1 liter of gas, about 2.3 kilograms, and 2.7 kilograms emitted from 1 liter of diesel. So we can do a calculation of the environmental footprint, how much is the impact. Then we can do some mitigation and improve the environmental impact, and we might be able to apply for funding from that. So that is why we are collecting those information. Yeah, our own community climate impacts is not the concern. Yeah, it's the information collected could be used for fund application. Hopefully this clears the air.
There was just another couple of comments in the chat just around kind of the concern with capacity in nations, which definitely comes up. And it is, a tedious process to fill out the forms, especially if you want it frequently done. So there was just a comment and about that this would be more efficient if it was more the work of the coordinators, which I guess that's planning's coming forward, and just more information would be gathered into discussion with individual nations rather than relying on the ability of nations with, minimal capacity in terms of human capacity to fill the forms out. So just a good comment.
Oh, totally valid comment. On that note, maybe I can just jump in quickly. FNESS just had a community capacity and emergency management program that was offered here in the last couple of months, where communities were able to apply to get an emergency program coordinator, basically a funded position for a year to help the community prepare for emergencies, learn how and implement some of these tools that were of interest to community members. So unfortunately that funding is expired, but we are looking to top up that funding. So hopefully in the next little bit, we'll be able to make an announcement indicating that there is more funding available for those type of program coordinators. And then communities would be able to hire a new staff for that position. Some communities I see already on the call have received that funding already. So thanks for participating in the program already. But we do hope to ramp that up and get more of those type of opportunities out there so that there would be a paid position to engage with these type of tools.
Thanks, Brendan. Yeah, if anyone, thanks for everyone for putting kind of some of the programs, funding programs in the chat. We'll be sure to follow up in the follow-up email and on the events webpage to put those funding opportunities as well. So if FNESS has any particular funding programs, if you could just pop it in the chat, that would be great. Debbie had a question about, will the funding be every year for the positions? Is it like a multi-year or is it year-to-year basis?
The current program that we ran this last year was one sort of pot of funding that we got and distributed just for the year, but we are working on getting more funding to top that up and make it multi-year, just some of the work that we're doing in the background.
Great. I don't know if there was any other questions. Thanks so much for everyone's questions. Also, I just see a question, a comment in the chat about we need a follow-up session to show how we can make reports that can support grants or funding. A generic example would could work to show the process involved. Yeah, good comment. Thank you for that. I don't know if you have anything to say to that, Guyu or Brendan, in terms of how to make the reports. Oh, in my apologies. I'll let you go ahead. There was one other questions after this one, so I'll let you respond and then we'll go to the next comment. Go ahead. In terms of the making reports and supporting grants and funding applications.
I was going to say, sorry, I missed the question. I was answering another one in the chat.
It was just regarding, oh, sorry, Guyu, do you have a response?
Yeah, the reports can be customized to each community. We see in the comments that our communities have different needs. So the follow-up session, if a follow-up session is needed, you can just send me an email and we can find a time that works for me and for the community. We can have a one-on-one call.
Okay,
Yeah.
so there's no plans for a follow-up session I think it'd be helpful for everyone to know the process to show. Yeah, I think it'd be good. I think it's a good suggestion.
Yeah, yeah, sure. Yeah, we can write some code and create a template on the backend, so you can download the report. But it depends on what you want on the report.
Of course, but I just want to go through the process with you, and I think it'd be good. It'd be good because what we're doing here is really overview and really just general, and it seems like refresher, but this is all new to me. But so it's going really quickly, and this is a lot of information, and and you're going really quickly too. So even watching this over, I'm still gonna have a hard time processing and dealing with this Lightship now on my own. Yeah. From just this one simple session, I don't think I'll be able to handle this.
Yeah, I understand that. So yeah.
We hear your comments for sure, Daniel. Good news this year is I've been able to hire training staff. So feel free to reach out to us and we'd happily get a trainer to come up your way and sit down with you for an afternoon or sit down with some of your other staff members. And same goes for any of the other communities on the call. Like now that we have some trainers in place, don't hesitate. We're happy to get somebody to come out there and sit down for a day or two or whatever that looks like on your schedule.
Yeah, it's also totally understandable that it might be overwhelming on your own. So once we get our coordinators, they might be traveling to your community and sit down with you and answering all questions you have right on the spot.
Guyu, I'm actually in Vancouver.
Okay.
Will I be able to meet with you at the, I'm like 5 minutes away from the office.
Yeah, sure.
Or do you work in the office?
Yeah, today I'm in the office.
Okay.
Start the car, Daniel. Head down right now. No, I'm kidding.
I'm literally 5 minutes away. I live in South Vancouver. I look at that airport building every day.
Perfect. Well,
Hmm.
then, you know, you can connect up in person, which is always better, right? I see
For sure.
Patricia. Yeah, for sure. Thanks for your comments, Daniel. It's appreciated. Yeah, I'll pass it over to Patricia has a comment.
Yes, thanks, Christy. I just want to comment about building capacity. That's a big issue, like every community address in meetings when we have, you know, with the government, provincial and federal government. So those are kind of issues that we are advocating for. So the regional climate change coordinators, that's a topic that is coming since 2018, 2019, and finally BC government is trying to support some of those positions, at least now as a pilot project, but also I think the federal government could support regional climate change coordinators or community coordinators. So we are working on that, and I do encourage you to also advocate for that in your community. So collectively, we can have more results, or we can get more results on that. So about the funding streams, there are different programs. That's something we are also discussing with the government, how we can change the way how the funding is allocated to communities. With the federal government, we are in discussions. We will be holding some engagement sessions at the end of probably in the fall and winter of this year to discuss how to change those funding streams and how we can provide better support to the communities. And in the meanwhile, I think we can share some funding programs that are available, and perhaps we can also work with FNESS and have those templates for the reporting. I know some of those programs request reports specific for the community on data. So perhaps we can discuss this and we can host another session specific for reporting and connected with those funding streams. So it's not just the reporting, it's also how we can target those reports to those funding streams that are available for communities. So maybe that's something we can offer.
Thanks, Patricia. We just had a couple comments in the chat about how much does it cost on a yearly basis to use Lightship, and the best, it's zero cost to First Nations in BC. So that's, thanks, Brendan. I also see that there's a couple of requests in the chat for FNESS that a couple people in their nations would like further training. So just to note, there was also a question. I really appreciate all the questions and discussion. Thanks to everyone. About will traditional Indigenous climate knowledge be available to others for integrating with other projection and climate vulnerability assessment models? My apologies on the pronunciation. I'll let Guyu or Brendan take the question.
I think in that case, it really depends on the nuanced pieces of data that we're talking about. Certainly, if it's something culturally sensitive, then it wouldn't be available to anybody to freely download and integrate. If it's something that you can publicly pull from, say, a weather app and look at the last 100 years of data and project 100 years of climate data in the future, like a lot of that's already publicly available. So not too many issues are there. But again, if it crosses the line of culturally sensitive, then it wouldn't be available to anybody else outside of your community to view unless there was express permission sort of given ahead of time.
Thanks, Brendan. Patricia, did you have your hand up still, or is that a historic hand raising? Okay, perfect. Just confirming. Yeah, I guess there was one other comment and then we should probably get moving with the demo. So there was a question on from, I guess it was about a specific comment in terms of from the Statlium government that there's a hold on creating forms. They're busy, very busy. So I might just let Brendan or Guyu pop in the chat and respond directly to that question because it's specific. And then I think probably we should get moving on the live demo. And I know Daniel was hoping to see kind of, remember last session we couldn't see a part of the map. So if you could just hop on and do that first, Guyu, maybe in your demo.
Yeah,
Just
sure.
to give kind of a little recap to get people started. And if people want to bring up the Lightship account and follow along, that would be great too. So I'll pass it over to you, Guyu, and thanks to everyone for all your comments and questions.
Share screen. Okay, so we go to the workspace, then click on map. Wait for a while. So this gray box is the area of interest. You can set it in whatever way we like it. So you might just want area around your community. You can set your AOI here. So we'll only be looking at this area. Then you can click on the boxes. This window will pop up. So only the polygons will have data in them. So for reserves or treaty lands, we have data. For some other areas, we don't have any information on that. So this download function didn't work last time because you will need an account for this. And the Lightship company is trying to make that available to public, but they are still in the process. Actually, today everyone will have an account, so this should work. You click on data download, then get your download, then follow the pop-up. Yeah, it's 1,000 steps until you get the data. So we will have a PDF. Then there's annual data, seasonal data. So there you have it. You can download the climate report, climate summary from map here. Okay, hope this works for everyone's account. Okay, now that's the recap for climate data download. Gonna stop sharing and yeah, maybe look at the comments again. Do we have any new questions?
Nope.
Maybe yes, Lightship is free to First Nations, but you need to contact with us, not the Lightship company, and we will help you create your own Lightship workspaces for your community.
Who you?
Yep.
I'm on Lightship right now, and I'm on members. I clicked on members and has everyone's names
Yes.
listed. And then if you click on someone, would you have access to their information? Is that why? And then and
Yeah.
also sorry, quickly, and under Brendan and yours, you have a whole bunch of symbols by your names. Are those clickable for us, or is that just how does that work?
The icons are different teams Brendan is in. So yeah, for us, this time we are in the team climate data workshop participants, the CP. And if you are in different teams, your team will be show up there. And for people don't have access to that team, they will just see the abbreviation, but they won't be click on that, and they can't see who is in a different team.
Thank you.
Yeah. Sophie, do you have a question? Okay.
Any other questions for Guyu?
Yeah, sorry, I just have another question. Down the side, it says details, map, and then at the very bottom, there's also layers and base maps. There's 3 maps. Why is that?
So those maps are there so you can turn on or turn off and see different data sources.
So they all contain different information then?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, sometimes some of them have a ton of water-related information around freshwater lakes, rivers, salmon streams. Other times they're all about wildfire. Other times it's soil stability. So
you'll be able to change between scenarios. So can click on layers here and change your base map, so you can choose maybe low emission scenario, what it looks like for this scenario.
And each of those are as a separate layer, each data point.
Yeah.
This is a lot. Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
Also, I just wanted to make a quick comment. In the last session, there was some troubles with some of the nations coming up. And then when we did a test before this session, you actually have to just wait probably like 5 seconds, and then it does appear. It says nothing there, and then you wait and it takes a minute to load. We kind of discovered that with Guyu prior to this session. If you were in the last session, you noticed that we had a few troubles finding some of the nations.
Mm-hmm.
There was a comment here from Heather, just they clicked on a person at random and they're able to view the name, email, address, anything else they've inputted with the registration. So kind of what's the confidentiality I think she's getting at.
yeah, I know what particular screen she's talking about there. In that case, the idea is there, as you can see, like who else is also part of using our thing. Overall, the whole idea is to have people sharing best practices and connecting and making those connections. So the idea is about like having an area where you can see other people that use the system. You could potentially reach out to neighbors, neighboring communities that are doing similar climate change impacts, or maybe the local government next to you is doing a flood study, but it allows you to know who else is on Lightship in those other communities, so that you can start to build up networks of people that are using the similar tools and things out there. This kind of dovetails with our community of practice meetings that we're doing monthly as well. But hopefully that answers it quickly.
Thanks, Brendan. Was there any other questions, comments? Anything else you'd like to see on the back end of Lightship? We have Guyu here to show us, so please speak up or post a comment in the chat if you have anything else.
Yeah, got a direct message from Lindsay. Is Lightship compatible with Azure, with ArcGIS? It uses shapefile. ArcGIS can create shapefile and upload to Lightship, but it's not directly compatible with ArcGIS. So we're here to support.
Okay, there's a couple questions in the chat. One was, is there a way to log protected information without disclosing what it is?
We've done some similar work like that with some bands that have indicated like this is a culturally sensitive site, but they don't want it to show up on the map as like, this is the sensitive site right here. So what we'll do is like put a pin roughly in the area and then put a big buffer around it and say, hey, this is a sensitive zone. So you don't have to know exactly where the site is, but you can put a big, 5-kilometer circle around an area of interest around your community and say, these are sensitive areas. We want to manage these differently. Part of the reason we're putting these tools together is to give communities the ability to put that data on a map and say, these are our boundaries that we care about. These are our assets and resources.
Thanks, Brendan.
Answer Aaron's question, where is the data from to populate into the map for each reserve? It's generated from a software called Climate BC. More information can be found on our event page, where you can watch our recording or read through some of the resources. Detail of the data sources are provided there. I might just send you an email containing the links after the workshop.
Yeah, we'll definitely put those links on where Climate BC and the different data comes from. And also, I know there was some comments in the chat about some of the funding sources that were being posted. So we'll definitely include that in the follow-up chat along with the recording as well.
I do have a visual diagram of where a lot of the data comes from, but I can't share my screen. If you could quickly give me that permission, I could share a quick visual image of where some of the data sets are coming from.
That'd be great. I think Joanna could give you the ability to share your screen.
On it right now.
Oh, great. Our Zoom rock star.
See it right now.
Oh,
so I put this together for a school assignment, but basically this is where a lot of our data sets come from. So just trying to explain, like, we're pulling in hotspot imagery from NASA every couple of hours, all day long, every day. River Forecast Center, Microsoft has data sets about each community and each reserve. So we're pulling all the data out of Microsoft, out of Google that we can find. Natural Resources Canada, it's because a ton of data. There's a BC data warehouse that has an unbelievable amount of information that intersects with reserves. Fire risk, flood risk, earthquakes, fault lines, soil stability. We can help bands get funding to do drones and ortho imagery, LiDAR, and things like that through some of our funding. I put a link in the chat for Casey La Rochelle, one of the guys that deals with a lot of our funding. Feel free to reach out to him. And then sometimes there's other First Nations organizations that put together data sets that are really relevant for local communities. Sometimes like land degradation layers showing impacts to certain areas around communities. So pulling all those together and basically giving it to communities through the Lightship platform to support emergency management, as well as the other benefits: economic, environmental, cultural, social, governance. But FNESS's role is more focused on helping you with the emergency management. The data sets can be used however you want afterwards, realistically. So hopefully that shares a little bit of how we're working the system.
That's a great visual. Actually, Lynn was wondering if you could share that info, perhaps.
I could, after this, I will maybe take a picture or a screenshot of it and then send it to you to distribute.
For sure.
Okay.
That'd be great.
Yeah, I
We
just
had
haven't actually shared it yet, so it kind of caught me off guard.
such a nice graphic. You can't beat a good visual. So thanks for sharing that. We had a question about, is there an overlay that can show traditional boundaries of all nations in BC as well?
Yes, we have that on Lightship, but it's not included in the climate data lab because we just might want to keep it simple, so don't overwhelm people with all different sorts of data.
I'd say there are some limitations to that particular data set too. There is a layer in the provincial warehouse that has all the traditional territories, but nations that haven't engaged in that process with the province won't have anything in that map. So like just living here in Short Magulu, for example, there's no traditional territory boundary in that map for the province unless you engage through that process. But with the Lightship tools, again, we can sit down and work with you, and you can put your own boundaries on a map the way that you want to plan for your community in the areas that you care about. So that's the difference of borrowing provincial data versus creating our own going forward.
That would be something we do one-on-one, or are you going to do, or how would that work?
Well, in that particular case, we'd want to sit down with you and have the discussions and plan it out properly and put the boundaries where they make sense. So yeah, it could be engagement with some of our staff, basically. If you're already in Vancouver and working with GUI, it might be a good good relationship to just continue working with GUI on something like that.
Thank you.
Great. Was there any other kind of burning final questions before we wrap up? We really appreciate all the questions and discussion so far. So thank you for that. If there's nothing more, you can always put your comments in the chat. We have a few minutes. I'm just gonna share my screen briefly. So you can see some of the key contacts here, in particular FNESS. I added Casey's contacts as well with funding. So yeah, just have a look at these. I put them in the chat as well. And we'll be sure to include these in the follow-up email with the recording. So I just also want to thank GUI very much for your presentation, and for Brendan for supporting this presentation and all your answers to questions and comments as well. And I just want to, again, acknowledge Joanna for all her hard work on the Zoom and the tech and the registrations throughout this whole series. So thank you, Joanna, for all your hard work, and we really appreciate it. And thanks to Carla for that beautiful opening. And I would also, of course, like to acknowledge Patricia, my coworker, for her contributions. And I'd just like to pass it off to her to make some closing remarks or observations before we wrap up the session. So thank you.
Thank you, Christy. And I just want to echo your words and say thanks to the presenters, thanks to FNESS. It took us a while to put together all the series. We were working on this, I think, for more than a year, trying to see how's the best way we can show all this information. And of course, this is not the end, and we will be discussing if we host a follow-up session on how to use this climate data. We know that we are in a very challenging time now with climate change, and it looks like everything will get worse. The fire season started very early this year, and now we are with some flooding issues in some points or some places, and also some droughts are coming up. So I think it's very, very important to have those tools available for communities trying to adapt to climate change. Of course, the funding issue is a big problem, and that's something we need to work more how to address and how to help communities to access that funding. and also building capacity, as we discussed today, is also a very important piece that we need to continue working on that. Yeah, as I said, thank you very much. Thank you all the participants for making the time to be in this session. And please let us know if there is anything that you need or any other topic that you would like to address. We will be hosting a session on transportation on June 29. This is open for all communities. We are starting a new project on transportation, and we also want to share that information with you. We will be also showing how to become a community pilot to work on a transportation plan in the next year. So if you are interested, we can share also that information, and that's on June 29. I think it's at 10, right, Christy, if I am not wrong, and maybe Christy can share the link to the BCAFN events if anybody is interested in this piece as well. So thank you very much, and I pass over to Brendan or Huyu if you want to provide all final remarks.
Okay, just before we leave, maybe we can do a quick vote. So if you are interested in using Lightship with FNESS, type 1 in the comments. And if you think it's too complicated or overwhelming and you might want to keep it simple, we can send you a PDF version of our forms. You can type 2 in the comments. Okay, I'm seeing some ones. That's pretty good. Yes. Okay, so yeah, the slides and a guide document along with maybe PDF forms will be sent to you after the workshop, maybe early next week. So yeah, thank you for participating.